Newsom. As the Wall Street Journal alluded to, you know what you could have done to alleviate this? Since you want to take the Trump administration to court and say that he had no business federalizing the National Guard, you could have caught the National Guard. You could have made sure that law enforcement throughout the city of Los Angeles had a very strong, vibrant, conspicuous.
Stephen A. Smith just turned California into a headline crime scene, and Governor Gavin Newsom is looking like the prime suspect. You thought Stephen saved his fiery outbursts for LeBron debates. Not today. He's torching hair gel glamour and shredding what's left of Newsom's polished political swagger. So why is the king of sports talk unloading a verbal flamethrower on a sitting governor? What sparked this explosive takedown? Grab your popcorn, because this isn't dull politics. It's live wire entertainment with Stephen A. bringing the heat like only he can. Let's dive straight into the firestorm.
It might have alleviated the possibility of him calling in, meaning Trump calling in the National Guards and the Marines. You could have done that. But you didn't. And because you didn't, you gave him the opening to do it. Because it makes you look like you're weak on crime. You're weak on lawlessness. You're weak on borders. All the things that got him elected, you're playing into it.
If you're feeling the heat, smash that subscribe button. It helps more than you can imagine. This showdown started with a spark only Stephen A. Smith could ignite. But today, he wasn't roasting NBA refs or dissecting Kyrie Irving's latest mood swings. No way. This time his flamethrower locked on the slick-haired monarch of the Golden State himself, Governor Gavin Newsom. And if California was already smoldering in controversy, Stephen A. just doused it with premium-grade rocket fuel.
My personal belief is that the political career of Gavin Newsom is in peril, if not flat out over. His presidential aspirations have been eviscerated. There is no way he overcomes this. No way. And in regards to Karen Bass, to say nothing, you can come and speak out, but that video will live in infamy. You had absolutely.
Now you're probably asking what pushed California's governor into the same verbal cage match usually reserved for LeBron trade drama. The answer is almost too simple. He strutted out with talk of California as a shining land of freedom and endless opportunity, while people are bailing out of the state like it's the Titanic, and Newsom is standing there like the iceberg.
Why the hell are you playing right into the hands of Donald Trump? Because I got news for you. On this particular issue, as it involves migrants, immigrants, those who are undocumented, dare we say illegal, in the United States of America, he's winning on this issue. There's a reason he won a popular vote. There's a reason he won the Electoral College vote. There's a reason he won every swing state. There are people within the United States of America that want our immigration crisis addressed and want the situation resolved somehow.
Stephen A. had a flash of brutal clarity. He looked around, saw Newsom on a glossy press tour pitching California like it was some sunny Disneyland, and thought, this isn't it. California isn't the Magic Kingdom. It's more like a jaw-dropping haunted mansion that charges top dollar for broken plumbing, sky-high taxes, and a mysterious smell drifting straight off the sidewalk.
Flying all the way from Ghana, about a 15-hour flight to Los Angeles, and you're telling me you couldn't answer a reporter's question? No comment, we'll talk later, or let me huddle with my staff and we'll get back to you. You couldn't even think to say that? Nobody on your staff prepared you for what has been transpiring in California? Nobody gave you a warning, a heads up? You didn't have anything to say?
The man calls it a freedom state, yet toothpaste sits behind locked glass and every Walgreens feels like a Cold War bunker. Freedom to what, exactly? Freedom to step over tent cities just to reach your Uber? Freedom to shell out $8 for a gallon of gas so you can crawl through 2 hours of traffic to a job at a startup that gets scooped up by Google and shut down overnight? Stephen A. didn't just disagree with Newsom, he detonated, and not with a tiny rumble of annoyance. This was a full-blown Yellowstone caldera eruption, because when Stephen A blows, it's never just a critique, it's a show. And when he sets his sights on someone outside the sports world, you know things have hit peak absurdity. Newsom's greatest hits were on replay. Remember the infamous French laundry night while California was locked up tighter than a Costco liquor cabinet? There he was, sipping wine and nibbling foie gras with lobbyists like some modern Caesar in a Roman feast, while grandma couldn't attend church and your nephew's kindergarten graduation limped along on Zoom.
I'd like to know why you didn't take Donald Trump up on that offer, or Gavin Newsom up on his offer, and arrest the governor of California at that particular moment in time. Is that just, I mean, normally when we've seen you, you said you wouldn't hesitate to arrest an elected official. He was daring you to do it. How come that didn't happen?
Well, first of all, I'm not a prosecutor. That's up to the Department of Justice. That they need to open a criminal case and prosecute. But that was really taken out of context because I did an interview in L.A.
That, my friends, is the great Californian double standard in full display. It's exactly why Stephen A came in hotter than a Lakers fan watching a fourth quarter meltdown. Newsom struts with the swagger of a man auditioning for the White House, yet he can't even stop people from swiping shampoo at CVS. How can you lead a nation when your local Target looks like a post-apocalyptic flea market? Stephen A rips straight through the facade. The idea that Gavin's perfect hairline and camera-ready speeches somehow count as leadership. You can't just flash a smile, squint for the cameras, and expect homelessness to vanish like CGI. California holds nearly 30% of the nation's entire homeless population. That's not a talking point, it's an indictment. And here's the kicker. Newsom loves dunking on red states. Florida, Texas, anywhere barbecue is eaten unironically, he's there wagging a finger. Meanwhile, California's population chart is diving like a ski slope. People are loading up their Teslas and heading for Texas, not because they've suddenly fallen in love with cowboy hats, but because they'd rather battle humidity and mosquitoes than suffer another power outage or pay $5 grand a month for a 2-bedroom closet.
I like Gavin Newsom. I think the brother looks the part. He looks presidential in them damn blue suits, no doubt about it. He's sharp as a tack. He's smart as hell. But on far too many occasions, when he was spewing out facts, it was rife with emotion. Instead of addressing the facts that the right was throwing in his direction to debunk anything that he had to say. But we forgot to mention that to Bill Maher on Real Time. This is the kind of problem that exists.
Stephen A called it exactly what it is. A man chasing a national popularity contest while his own house burns, both literally and figuratively. Wildfires, blackouts, fentanyl, crime, businesses fleeing. But sure, let's debate Ron DeSantis on Fox News, because clearly that solves everything. And those debates, Newsom shows up slicker than a used car ad, spinning circles around opponents who don't even live in his state. Meanwhile, Californians are left asking, hey, are you ever coming home to actually do your job? Because it feels like he's left the building, popping onto Zoom just long enough to sign a few bills and strike a photo op pose. Stephen A practically begged for accountability in the loudest, most unmistakably Stephen A way possible. Not because he suddenly turned into a Fox News pundit, but because people are sick of the theater. They're tired of being told their own eyes are lying, that the tents, the crime, the boarded up shops are all just illusions, that the state is thriving, that this chaos is somehow progress. But progress doesn't look like plywood on every storefront. It doesn't look like moms afraid to take their kids downtown. It doesn't look like shoppers needing security just to buy groceries. And it definitely doesn't look like millionaires playing dress up as the resistance while ordinary people can't afford rent.
Talked about the right, when you talked about conservatives, when you talked about conservative folks out there and what their principles were and how they may not have been for transgender athletes competing in sports, how they may not have been for, for open borders, how they may not have been for sanctuary cities. Didn't you question their humanity in a roundabout way at the very least? Weren't you one of the voice boxes out there saying that stuff? Now, I like Gavin.
Stephen A channeled the frustration of every Californian who's ever stared at their tax bill, glanced at the pothole-riddled street outside, and thought, wait a second, what exactly am I paying for? He roasted Newsom for bragging about equity and justice, while people sleep in tents just a block from luxury condos, for posing as a climate crusader while California's power grid sputters like it belongs in a developing country, for selling himself as the future of the party while the present is an overpriced, overregulated maze of contradictions. It was brutal, it was blistering, and it was overdue, because someone had to say it. Who better than Stephen A., the man who built a career on blowing whistles and calling out nonsense? Loud, dramatic, sometimes over the top, but this time he wasn't wrong. He mocked the optics, a state that bans plastic straws but hands out free needles. A state that lectures about inclusion while driving out the middle class. A state that preaches affordability while being unaffordable to anyone except tech execs and minor celebrities.
I would definitely be big time when it comes to addressing crime in the streets.
Okay, good.
I know quite the subway
Good.
system in New York City. You're damn right. I got a problem with that. Something needs to be. I'm a native of New York City.
Yeah.
I took the F and the E train all the time. I wouldn't want my family traveling on the subway right now.
Same with me, not
what
anymore.
I'm saying.
Do you take the subway anymore? I feel like you don't.
Well, I don't.
You don't.
I don't. But that's only because when you get popular and stuff like that, you try to avoid crowds.
You're
But
too popular to take the subway.
I was in L.A. The homelessness that exists there, I got an issue with that. Certainly, when you look at Gavin Newsom and some of the policies that he's put forth, you're talking about a lot of different things that need to be addressed.
And the schools? Oh, the schools. California piles on one of the highest tax burdens in the nation, yet classrooms are still bickering over whether kids should master math or simply vibe their way to graduation. Stephen A. compared it to paying for a courtside ticket only to discover you're watching a high school JV squad with no coach, no basketball, and no game plan. Some call his criticism political theater, but Stephen A. is giving voice to millions who don't see politics. They see chaos. They see boarded up businesses, police departments stretched thin, and neighborhoods overwhelmed. They see a state swimming in Silicon Valley money, but running on Flint, Michigan vibes. Through it all, Stephen A. reminded everyone why his voice matters. He doesn't care about party lines. He cares about exposing the nonsense. A human lie detector fueled by decibels and disgust. When he went off on Gavin, it wasn't empty noise. It was a cultural alarm bell ringing for anyone still paying attention.
Newsom in tears. I retweeted it, so if you have it, great. It's easier. There
Did
you
he
go.
actually cry, Pat?
Oh, you should see this here. If this is the clip on Anderson Cooper, Rob.
Yep.
Okay, go ahead and play this clip.
I hate to even ask this question, but the president-elect chose to attack you, blame you for this.
One can't even respond to it. I mean, people are literally fleeing. People have lost their lives.
Why, though?
Kids lost their schools. Families completely torn asunder. Churches burned down. This guy wanted to politicize it. I have a lot of thoughts, and I know what I want to say. I won't. I stood next to a president of the United States of America today, and I was proud to be with Joe Biden.
Stephen A. didn't need a policy degree. He just had to look around, listen to what people are already whispering, and blast it out louder with that trademark passion and enough arm flailing to rival one of his legendary Max Kellerman debates over the GOAT. And sure, Gavin Newsom might survive this week's headlines, but the message landed, because once Stephen A. locks on, nobody walks away untouched. You leave scorched, rebranded, and downgraded from potential candidate to running punchline. Stephen A. didn't just rant, he became the unofficial spokesperson for every frustrated dad stuck in gridlock, every mom dodging needles on the school run, and every small business owner wondering why taxes read like ransom notes. He's not a senator, he's not a pundit, he's a sports guy with a megaphone, and somehow he's saying what half the media is too polite or too paid to admit.
Newsom criticized the party and implored fellow Democrats to take accountability for their losses and called the party's current brand, quote, toxic, end quote. Newsom appeared on Real Time with Bill Maher and said the following, quote, Democrats, we tend to be a little more judgmental than we should be. We need to own our mistakes. We need to own what's wrong with our party. Part of the problem with the Democratic brand is that we talk down to people. We talk past people, end quote. Newsom recently launched a new podcast called, quote, This is Gavin Newsom.
When Stephen A. barked, "We're tired of the BS," America didn't flinch, they cheered. Behind the theatrics was cold, hard truth wrapped in a three-piece suit and delivered like a verbal haymaker. Then the internet did what it does best. Memes exploded faster than Gavin's latest poll numbers. One viral tweet read, Stephen A. just gave Gavin the LeBron treatment, paired with a photoshopped UFC poster. Newsom versus Smith, hair gel versus hairline. The left looked rattled, the right passed the popcorn, and independents kept refreshing Twitter like it was the Super Bowl halftime show. It's spread faster than a DeSantis press conference gaffe. But jokes aside, the reason it landed so hard was simple. It felt real. We live in a time where political speeches sound like low-budget TikToks, where every answer is a non-answer, and promises evaporate faster than California's water reserves. Stephen A. may have yelled, but he yelled what people are actually thinking. The ones paying the bills, dodging crime, and praying their kids can get home from school without stepping over a needle or a politician's soapbox.
I don't even know what to say anymore about these elected officials in California.
In California, you pay a lot of taxes.
Hell yes. And by the way, they're the ones that put Gavin Newsom and people like Karen Bass in office. So now you realize you have Democrats who helped put them in office, clamoring for Donald Trump to be back in office. You realize that, right?
And the final dagger. At least when Stephen A. yells, it's entertaining. When Gavin tries it, all you get is a press release nobody bothers to read. Game, set, match. The clearest voice of reason just came from ESPN, and somehow it made more sense than anything coming out of Sacramento. In true Stephen A. fashion, he hijacked Newsom's victory parade and turned it into a roast. That alone says everything. He doesn't worry about donors, focus groups, or election math. He just talks, loudly, relentlessly, and in this case, truthfully. And maybe that's exactly what people crave. Not another politician in a Patagonia vest promising we should trust the process. Not another polished photo op or empty Instagram post. Maybe what we really need is someone willing to yell with theatrical hand gestures and unapologetic volume that the emperor has no clothes and probably no clue.
California governor hosted conservative guests like Charlie Kirk and the aforementioned Steve Bannon. Newsom also found common ground with the right on the issue of transgender athletes competing in women's sports. He called these athletes' participation, quote, deeply unfair, end quote. Bravo, bravo. I mean, bravo. I'm so very touched, Gavin Newsom, governor of California, that you would say that. Why didn't you add that you were the one doing it? Because that's exactly what the hell you were doing.
While Gavin Newsom polishes his image and plans his next debate tour, California is still battling blackouts, break-ins, and broken promises. And thanks to Stephen A. Smith, the volume on that reality just got turned all the way up. So the next time Newsom struts onto a national stage with that practiced smirk and those flashy rhetorical jazz hands, remember this: Stephen A. already cooked him, and the leftovers are still sizzling. If you think this takedown was pure fire, hit that like button, drop your reaction in the comments, and subscribe so you don't miss the next political flame fest.